ladies and gentlemen, we got Amy Barbera in the building.
Woo!
And she
Finally.
is wooing. She is full of excitement. She is flying high. I want you to
Hi.
remember that word, guys. Flying
Yes,
high.
flying.
How are you feeling today on the Mental Margarita Show?
I'm good. Feeling good.
When did you realize that you have this amazing talent? Was this something that was happening? Was it being developed in the small town, Hagerstown?
Well, I always knew, like, when you're a child, usually God reveals your gifts. We
Yeah.
all usually, if we don't know what we want to become, or God somehow as a child reveals it. But so I always loved to sing. I used to sing with Annie, the musical Annie and different things. But I didn't like have much self-confidence. I used to we used to sing a couple of the friends in the neighborhood, and I always was like scared. But
Yeah.
when I was I can't remember if it was elementary or middle school, I entered a talent show and I did my favorite things from The Sound of Music. And I had a little dress and I got the teapot, and I ended up winning against the whole school. So that was like God showing me at that time in my life that that's my destiny. But of course, I didn't know it then. I actually won money. They had a cardboard with a piggy bank drawn on it, and they put all this change like quarters, and so it was like actually I won money, and it was between me and this girl Renee Spelding. She was a dancer, and I won. So that was like a really big moment for me as a child. But I
Wow.
really didn't believe in myself. My grandma always believed in me as a singer. She loved to sing. My dad was a jazz musician. Actually, he studied jazz in college, and then he went on to be a computer programmer for the State Department in Washington, D.C. But he had music. My grandfather was an organist,
Wow.
pianist, so he was in the lineage as far as music. And then I went to college in Hagerstown and was in some musical theater. But it wasn't until I gave my life to the Lord. I actually went through the eating disorder, anorexia
Okay.
nervosa,
Yeah.
and went through, which is a terrible thing. And I went through a year of therapy. I never had to go in any treatment centers or anything for anorexia. I don't know if you know anything about eating disorders,
Oh,
anorexia.
I absolutely do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was the when I was really young. I don't have anything, and I've never dealt with it since. But so it was through that healing process is when I decided I needed to move away and pursue my dreams. Also, at that time period, I developed vocal cord nodules. I was a cheerleader all through high school. My favorite all-time artist is Prince, which
Yeah.
he's my favorite artist of all time. And I
Love
used to
them. Love them.
and I used to, sit in the basement when we had basements in Maryland, and I would put the music on and I would try to sing with him. And he screams and he sing, of course I wasn't trained back then. So from all the years of, cheerleading and just everything, I developed 5 vocal cord nodules on my vocal cords. Now, like the big singers, Whitney Houston had them, Celine Dion. I don't know if
Yeah.
Mariah,
Oh my goodness.
Adele. And I decided to get the surgery. And I found out I had them because I was working at Pizza Hut at the time. I was going to college and I was starting to have like a raspy voice.
Yeah.
And so I got it checked out at ear, nose, and throat here, and I had 5 nodules. So I actually went through surgery at I think I was
Wow.
like 20, 19, 20, and having
Wow.
no idea, like a couple years later, I'd be moving to Florida and God would call me to be a singer. So it was like the devil was trying to steal through the eating disorder, through that. And so I got saved when I moved to Florida in 1996. 6 months after moving to Florida, I gave my life to the Lord. Immediately, my pastor, Pastor Tony, said, "You're meant to sing." I knew it was my calling, but
Wow.
I came to Florida to the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale. I also love fashion, so I went to school for fashion, but that was the time period where I was already healed from the eating disorder. I got saved, and then I started right away leading worship. He put me up there a few weeks after being saved. He said, "We want you to sing a solo." I decided to sing Amazing Grace. I was so scared. Oh my God.
Oh gosh.
Oh my
You would
Lord.
have
And
had
so
me cheering, Amy.
I'm still scared when I sing live, but
Oh.
yeah, even Adele, have you seen her on interviews? She throws up and everything. She said she's petrified. Barbara Streisand, there, even the big, and I
Yeah.
watched the Whitney Houston movie. she was shaking like a leaf in her earlier days, back there. She had the most amazing voice. But anyhow, I sang Amazing Grace. A lady in my church, Patty, prayed for me. And after I sang, all these people were crying. And the assistant pastor came up. He said, "You're anointed by God to sing." So a lot of times when I sing live, people cry. People say, "Oh my God, it's an anointing you have." So I feel I'm anointed by God to sing. Um, and I've had struggles throughout my walk with God in the last 20 some years with my voice, but I've trained with so many teachers, and I've never had vocal cord nodules come back. So
What a blessing. And you
yes.
know what? I thank you for sharing that, because, for any speaker or someone that's an entrepreneur, or it doesn't necessarily have to be singing. It could be
Yeah.
anything. You're going to be faced with adversity, and the devil is always going to try to steal your joy. But
Yes.
you didn't allow that.
No,
And not
no.
only allow that, you had a debut album. And the debut album, Beautiful Flower of Life.
I
So how
released
did
that.
it blossom into this album, and
Oh, well,
rightfully so,
actually,
Flower of Life?
I wrote my first song with my worship leader, Tim Jack, in 1998, I think it was, Flowers in My Garden. And I just started working with different people. Ben Bagby is my main producer for the last 25 years. So I met different people on that journey from 1998 till 2007 when the album was released in, when was it? 2008, I think, because it's been so long, I can't remember. But so I worked with Ben, I worked with Jim Wallman, Gunnar Spardell, and just did a song here, did a song there, did a song there, and then the album came together. Back then, we still didn't really have the internet. I started MySpace at that time. My friend Jamie set me up. So people still made real albums. You know what I mean? Like, so I actually had a CD release party in 2008. My grandma passed away in 2007, December of 2007. So I went back to Maryland. I sang Make Me a Butterfly, which is my signature popular song on that album, at her funeral. And with some of the money that I got from grandma after she passed, I was able to use that to print the album. You know how it costs money to do all that. And I had a nice party. And that was my first album release back in 2008. So, and things have changed. Like, back then, people just were on MySpace. I don't think there was any YouTube yet.
MySpace, yeah.
Just MySpace. So I started out there. My friend Jamie, "You gotta get on MySpace." So I've been on these social media from the very beginning.
And so now people are listening to this album, and not only are they listening, they're getting super duper excited. And what's this? Make Me a Butterfly. It's doing its thing, and
Yeah, that song touched so many
with
people.
awards.
Yes, it won awards. Well, actually, the video years later, people I used to put up these videos when YouTube first came out, when I first joined YouTube, of just like picture videos, but I never filmed a real video. And I met this gentleman, he passed away. It was like God sent him in my path. I can't even remember his name. I can't believe this. He was an older gentleman with a big beard, and he was believed in my music. And he said, "You really need to do a professional music video." And I'm like, "Well, how am I going to do that?" Because, videos can be very expensive.
Yeah.
And he started sitting down with me. He said, "Well, me and my friend, we do video." They were like small filmmakers here in South Florida. Well, I can't even remember his name too. And he ended up passing away several months after that of a heart attack. So we sat down and he started to do a storyboard. Well, of course, he passed away. And I met Xander Brandt. He was a photographer here in South Florida, but he's never filmed videos. But he said, "I like to film videos, but I'm going to go ahead and do." He's a phenomenal photographer. I mean, he films like, look, when he comes, like the sports games are here, he photographs LeBron James. So he's established in photography, but not in video. So he said, "Well, because I'm not a professional videographer, I'm going to do this for next to nothing. This will be my trial run." So we picked different locations, and it wasn't a video we filmed in a couple of weeks. It was over a couple of years because we had to I want to do things the right way. And each scene, it was like something God set that up. But the graveyard scene in the beginning, I was like, my friend April, who helps with my art direction, she's like, we got to film the first scene. I'm like, I'm not filming in a graveyard. She said, but Amy, the song starts out sad. You can't have this beautiful scene, We went graveyard hunting, and of course, we were going to film during the day. And we found this graveyard in the heart of Palm Beach, Florida. It's the oldest graveyard. Of course, you can see in the video by the sun. And it was the most, we filmed there that day. It was so beautiful. It was like a spring day. I can't even explain it. It was just beautiful. And I wore vintage. I'm a big thrift store shopper. I always advertise that on, so everything that I wear most of the time and in videos is from a thrift store. So of course, when Macklemore came out with thrift store, my fiance's like, that's your
I
song?
love thrift stores. Are you kidding me?
I'm actually writing a song called Thrift Store Girl. I said, I've got to do a
Oh,
song.
come on.
Yeah, we haven't even started recording it, but God gave me the song. And it's going to be country style. And I'm not even a country singer, but I feel like the way he's giving me the song, I have to do it in that style. But anyhow, we filmed it and it turned out beautiful because it's more of a vintagey graveyard. And
Right.
we were able, and then the second scene was filmed in a beautiful park by my house. And that one, it's just, just walking through the park. And then the final scene was in, what is it called? Highland Beach Mansions. And I was going to film on a regular beach. And my friend Tara's like, you can't film on a regular beach. Everybody's going to be around. Her friend was a dog sitter for this millionaire lady on Highland Beach. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's the big, rich billion-dollar mansions, million-dollar mansions. And he's dog sat, and he said he had access to her mansion. And we got the private use of the outside of the mansion because they were remodeling the whole inside. So that whole, it was a pride, that pool was her pool.
Wow.
And my friend April, who was there, she's the one who said the graveyard. She's like, you have to get in the pool. I'm like, I'm not getting in the pool, because I'm in a dress. She's like, no, I think it'll be gorgeous. So we did the scenes of me running with the butterfly kite on the beach. And then the very last thing, we got me in the water. So it was a cool video because we really filmed, now with all this AI technology and graphics and stuff, people don't necessarily have to go to these locations anymore. But back then, so it came together. And then I had 3 different editors till it was right. And then I put it up, and then people said, you should go on Film Freeway. I don't know. Have you heard of Film Freeway for film?
Absolutely.
Yeah, everybody. Kansas on there. What's the other big one? Sundance. I mean, you can submit your films to those. A lot of those big film festivals don't have music video category. So I started submitting, and that's when I started getting selected.
And you start awards.
I started winning awards. The big one that I won that year was the Detron TV. She's in Vegas, I think, or Arizona. Deandra's her name. You would love Deandra. She's amazing. I think she's in either Arizona or Vegas. I can't remember, but I won the quarter, and then at the end of the year, she said and I wasn't even in a place at that time. My dad was really sick and dying, and that was Christmas time. And she said, you made the finals. She said, you have to have people vote. I didn't even have people vote. It was a very stressful time. I ended up winning anyhow. So I know that was God because nobody knew. And she said, well, everybody on my end are voting for you of the 4 people. And I ended up winning not only a trophy and a certificate, but I actually won money. She sent me money. So that was a plus. And her and I have become very, very good friends. She's amazing.
Wow.
She does more hip hop. She's had hundreds of albums released. She does her own fashion line.
Unbelievable.
Her mom passed away, and then my mom passed away several months later. So we've been able to be support. So these film festivals, I've become friends with these people. I also, the reason I'm talking about the International Christian Film and Music Festival, that in 2020. Well, they nominated me, but I just found out last Friday that flying was selected. And tonight I find out they're making the announcement if I'm a final nominee. I found out Friday night. I haven't made any announcements. I submitted flying to the International Christian Film. I ended up getting selected for Make Me a Butterfly back in 2020. But because of COVID, they couldn't have the festival.
Oh, they
So
couldn't
it was
have it.
all virtual, and I ended up being selected, but I didn't win. I didn't wasn't nominated that year. So with flying, I said, let me submit again. And it's been 8 years. This festival has been, it's a big festival, Christian festival, 8 years. And they said this year was the biggest submissions ever in all categories. So
Whoa.
I made the selection finals, which they only picked 19 music videos of all the hundreds they got. And of course, they had the short films and the document. Tonight, they're doing a video thing showing who are the final nominees. If you're a final nominee, then their award ceremony is in Orlando in May. I think I might even have, I don't know if music video people have to perform, but they said music category people have to perform. So I'll find out. But at least I got selected. I just haven't made an announcement yet. So that one I got selected for then. And then there was many others, Clausing Magazine, Rome, I think it was,
So
I have it written down.
so
There's so
many,
many
so
of them. I
many.
can't.
Let
Global
me
Music Awards, the Global Music Awards in California.
the Global Music Awards Spotlight. You were a Spotlight Bronze winner of the Spotlight Short Film.
And that's in Atlanta. Atlanta.
People's Choice Awards.
What?
Artist of the Year.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
What is this? I mean, come on. This is crazy. Best
It's the
Newcomer.
Holy, it's the whole, and I
World
don't even feel like a
Award.
holy, it's the Holy Spirit, because,
It's the Holy Spirit.
and you know what it is? It's
Yeah.
other avenues for artists than just having to get their music out there. You can do other things. Like you have to be creative and say, okay, and remember 2020, everything was shut down. So that's
Yeah.
when I started submitting. If you see most of the awards then, 2020, 21, 19, because everything was shut down. So it gave you an opportunity to still feel like you had something going on. But
Going on. And that was very smart of you. You
yes,
know, it's that you remained active. And not only were you active, you were going through a healing process with a lot of things that you had going on. Now let's talk about the healing album because you had a healing album, right?
that was in 2015.
Breath of
I
Angels.
Breath
So
of Angels.
this healing thing was a part of you for a long time. Tell me about that.
Well, I was taking a yoga class at that time, yin yoga. It's like just a very calming yoga for anxiety and stuff. And I was in the class. It wasn't a Christian-based class, but I felt like the guy who taught the class, he just had such a beautiful spirit. And he would say, "Now just breathe and love yourself." It was just yin yoga is a kind of yoga that is just about healing. It's not really not any of the spiritual side of the yoga, you know.
Right.
And I was being the class, and the Holy Spirit spoke to me. I want you to do a healing meditation. Just very, laid back. So I already had Make Me a Butterfly one day and all these songs. I said, I'm going to make meditation remixes because over the years, I worked with a DJ named DJ Michael D, who would do dance remixes of some of my songs. So I said, why don't we do like meditation remixes? So I worked with this amazing guy, producer that I've known for years, Denny Tate. He's really good at that kind of music. My Ben and I sent the vocal files, and he was able to create meditation remixes just like a DJ would do a dance remix. And
Right.
then we did some new songs like Breath of Angels, and we Paint Me a Rainbow remixes, an old song, but just a few new ones. What's the other? Rest in the Lord. Actually did that song with a hip hop artist. He was
Wow.
always wanting me to work with his tracks. He'd send me tracks, and I just resonated with the track he sent me. He was wonderful, and so it just came together. And back 2015, still people were printing CDs. It wasn't really like we had everything up by now, but so I had another big party. It was like a wedding, actually. I learned how to plan like a wedding because I had it. I had full catering. I had a full show. I had to
Wow.
I wanted a decorator. I did it kind of Middle Eastern looking. Even though I'm a Christian artist, I like creativity. So I
Right.
said, I went out with the decorating lady that I hired, and provided all the stuff, and we had a beautiful party. And at that time, my parents were well, and they were at the front selling the CDs, and it was just a
Oh,
beautiful. There was like 100, both parties. Well, the first party was a little smaller. The
mhm.
second party, I had about 100 people. And it was
Wow.
in this church, this small Methodist church by my house. They happened to have like a small chapel beside their regular church, and they rented it out for weddings, and it was perfect. It had a stage, and and they didn't really charge that much for the actual venue itself. So that
Wow.
album, and so much work doing an album and doing a release party, and
So much. People don't
tons of
realize
work.
how much work there is. And you
Oh,
continued that work. You kept going. You
yeah.
kept going. You kept making progress. Eventually,
Yeah.
you're starting to walk. Eventually, you're starting to run. Eventually, you're starting to fly. Now,
Yeah.
we got to talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about this song, Flying. How did
Yes.
it come about?
Well, Flying is on actually Breath of Angels. I worked on that song with a concert pianist named Doug Hammer. He's a very established artist. If you look him up, he's just a pianist, but he's like on everything, on all the, what is it on the radio? What is those, or when you turn on your TV and the music channel, like soundscapes, and he pours and he does like and it's all original piano. He's released so many albums. And
Wow.
we connected through a producer I worked with, Doug Gunnar Spardell, years ago. And when I heard Flying, lyrics came to me right away. So it was originally his song, Flying High. And I wrote him and I said, Doug, because he already knew me, he loved my voice. I said, I wrote lyrics to your song completely the whole way through the song. And at that time, I think his wife had some illness going on and he wasn't in a place. And I was like, okay. About a year later, out of nowhere, it was like a new year, he contacts me and he says, are you ready to work on Flying? So I called him on the phone and he had me sing just a couple lines because it was just piano before. And then we did a derivative copyright and we decided, because his original version was just piano. He said, well, we can't name it Flying High because I already have this song established. So we did a derivative and we changed it to Flying, and my producer Ben added strings to it, and he's a violinist, so he played, I think it was viola on it as well. And I recorded it, and Ben helped arrange the background vocals because I arranged the regular vocals. Ben's like amazing with the vocal arranging, and the song came out. So when I decided to do a video for another song, I picked Flying. And, of course, I had this vision. We couldn't be in the sky, obviously, to film. So we filmed green screen in a dance
I
studio.
love it. I love it.
Me and Ben and my friend April and Elisa helped, and we had a big fan to make my hair blow, and Ben was up on a ladder, and and we filmed several scenes, and I had a vision of what I wanted. I wanted to be in this, I wanted to be in space, and we filmed on different days. And I said, Ben's a professional dancer too, so I said, I want to dance, and I'm not a dancer, but we did the leaping, which I did 100 takes of the leaping. And believe it or not, the spinning parts, I'm really spinning, and I'm in these dance shoes that are like and it makes you feel so sick in the dance studio. I'm spinning to get that effect, and I felt so nauseous. But Ben's like, trained dancer, so he's like, you got to focus on. So we really, it was really, everything was really filmed, but it was green screen. And then it
Oh,
was hundreds of hours of work. Ben and I sat down together at the computer and found backgrounds, and I had a vision, and we did it together. He's the one who did all the technical part. And so I became the creative director and he was the regular editor, director, and we did it together, but
right.
he knows how to do all the equipment side. And it took months and months and months because you have to find all this footage, stock footage to use. And
Yeah.
then all the footage that we got, I'm very particular. So I had to go through. It's like, and I did that with Make Me a Butterfly. It's so much work editing because you have to pick out what you want to use minute per second, minute. It's not something that's like, oh,
Not that
what is it?
it's not that easy, guys.
No, 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 no. The editing part, especially if you want to look a certain way, you're like, oh my gosh, you've got to pick things where you look good in the video.
Right. Come on now.
So we got
But
that
you
finished.
beautiful.
What is it?
You guys did absolutely wonderful.
Well, thank you. It was a lot of work, and I drove in absolutely crazy because down to the last minute, I changed things. The ending, I had like literally the last week when I was getting ready to put it up on YouTube. I said, Ben, I don't like the ending. So we came over, you know, he knows I'm a perfectionist. We changed the ending. I already knew about Film Freeway, so I started submitting, and I submitted to festivals, but no really local ones like where I could go to. And then I won Flow Film Festival. That was my first local film festival. My mom passed. I was a caretaker for the last 3.5 years of my
Right.
parents. My dad had a massive stroke.
Mm.
He had a small stroke at the beginning of 2020 before COVID. He got recovered from that. I was already taking care of my mom, who was in a wheelchair, couldn't walk anymore. My dad was perfectly healthy, looked young. And then he had a massive stroke. Was it like 7 months later? Like massive, where he was left on a feeding tube. He couldn't really walk or talk. He couldn't talk or walk barely at all anymore. And that was a very hard time because COVID was still here. Everything was
Mm.
still in lockdown, so we couldn't even go see him. And my mom, of course, was disabled. So it was like a really stressful 3.5 years of my life. But I took care of my parents. I learned a great deal about myself, and I learned about service, servanthood. I learned a lot that I could share beyond just the music. And it was just, I learned a lot about aging
Yeah.
and about, my dad, thank God, had a good job and had good
Yeah.
insurance, and everything was set up. But my sister and I, my dad suddenly had the stroke. We had to figure out his bills and everything. It was very stressful. So dad was still alive at that time. And I remember we brought him home. He went into rehab for 8 months, brought him home for a couple months in December. And I was changing his diapers, taking care of my mom. My sister was like, you're going to end up dying, because no one person, we had him on hospice, and we ended up having to put him in a facility because he was in the VA. So they said, if you keep him home, VA won't cover 100%. But if you put him in a facility. So I sat in the corner crying
Yeah.
because I felt so bad, but I did everything. I mean, I learned to change his diapers. I learned the feeding tube, and even with the help that we had, it was too much. So my dad was in the facility, Manor Pines in Fort Lauderdale, and I showed him the video. He always loved space. My dad was a real space person. So I really felt like, and when he saw it, he could
Wow.
barely even talk, but he's like, this is beautiful. I mean, he was spoken out as best as he could. So he got to see the video before he went to heaven. He ended up dying on my birthday, July 11th, 2022,
Mm.
shortly after I released the video, months after. And so I had that stressful period, but at the same time, I had submitted and I was winning throughout the years. But it was all places away, and we were still locked down in that time
You
period.
were
People
way
were,
on. Let me say this. Let me say this.
oh my gosh,
Eastern Europe Film Festival. The
what year was
Song
it?
Gold Award and the Hollywood Gold Award.
Oh, that was in that one. And I couldn't go to some of these because some of the festivals weren't really doing festivals live. So, but it still helped keep me boosted, because when you're a caretaker, it's a very stressful job. You're watching your parents go down. I couldn't do much because it's full-time work. It's like I couldn't.
Oh,
I even had
it-
to turn down people wanted to interview me or have me come do things. I couldn't do it because I was taking care of my mom.
yeah.
So right after my mom passed, March 10th of last year, was a year this past Sunday since she passed. I had entered the Flow Film Festival, which is a local film festival. I totally forgot about it. And like literally 2 months after, they said I was picked as a nominee. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay. And Kimberly writes me, we want you to come sing. You're a nominee. And I was like, no, my whole spirit. I got so nervous. You get that nervousness because my mom had just died. I was
Yeah.
very nervous. I haven't performed live in so long. I just felt I wasn't in a good place. But TC's like, you have to do it. And everybody's like, you got to do it. You got to get past your fear. And thank God I did. And I went and ended up performing not only for their opening ceremony. People, when I performed, I got to talk about my parents were sobbing. Like this girl, Cara, she said, I don't even cry. She was like literally sobbing. And
What a
Kimberly,
beautiful,
the head.
what a beautiful song.
Well, when I sang it live, Kimberly, the
Oh,
lady, the head of the whole festival, She's like, I have never experienced this with a singer. She said, I literally felt like like it was so powerful, like it was the anointing. She said, I've never experienced, and Kimberly's African American, or she's Korean. So, when you go to African American church, they really are anointed to sing. But she said, I've never experienced that with any singer. I was like, what?
Right.
Like literally felt like her whole, and it was the anointing of God because I was so scared. Um, so I'm like, I did it. And then I ended up winning. A week later, there was their awards. I ended up winning the final award. They had me perform there, which, I'd already done it the week before. So that opened the door for me to, okay. And then Laurel had her Holocaust Jewish film, because she's a Jewish girl. She said, you need to really submit to more local film festivals. So I did the Hollywood, Florida Film Festival, which is a really big one in South Florida. And sure enough, in November, I was selected as a finalist, and I ended up winning. And that when they gave me the award, it's up on my YouTube channel, my award section. I could not believe that, because Hollywood, Florida Film Festival is a huge festival. They're sponsored by Regal Theater. They had the most expensive champagne in the world sponsored it. So when they had their opening event, they had to have police there because it's like and they don't make you pay. Some of these film festivals, in order for you to go there, like Flow didn't make you pay either. If you were a nominee, you get into everything free. They give you a real trophy that you don't, everything was done professional. And I was selected, but I had no idea I was going to win. So it was the same way. It was a whole week festival. I went to the opening, the final, which was November 11th. I can't remember the exact date of last year. I was so scared, and they called me up, and that was their first year to have music video category, because this was their fifth or sixth season, but they never had music video. And Simona said, so we had music video submissions every year, and people would submit it in short film, documentary, but we never accepted it. So we finally decided that, last year to have, and I was the first. So they made it a big deal at the festival when they were announcing on them. So they did my category pretty much last. They said, we're going to make this a big deal because it's our first. I got a lot of time up on, I got to speak for like 10 minutes. Not only that, they asked me to perform, and I wasn't even planning on it. So I wasn't nervous per se when I went to the awards. I was nervous that I didn't know if I was going to win or not. But if I would have known that I had to sing, I would have been petrified. I get up there. Simona's like, Amy, I had my trophy in my hand. I gave an acceptance speech. You'll see it if you go on YouTube. And she said, we want you to sing. I'm like, what? I wasn't prepared. They had the music from the week before, but Ming is the guy who's the other owner of the film festival. I ended up singing it a cappella, and it was the most amazing experience of my life. And I got to talk, it was my parents, I got to talk about I felt like it was my parents, because I just won Flow several months before. And then all of a sudden I win the big award in my category for this one. And they really gave me a lot of time to talk. I encouraged people in their dreams, not just about myself, but, and it's such watching like the Oscars, the Grammys. And of course, I don't know if I ever win a Grammy or I win anything like that, but the feeling, even in a small, I can't explain the feeling of I got to feel what it feels like to be them, like a big celebrity, and get up there and people are screaming for you. And it's such an amazing feeling. It was one of the best days of my life. I can't explain it. It's like you're in a dream. Like, is this real? Even though it's not anything like big, like the Grammys or anything. So then right after that, the Welling, what is it?
It is big.
Well, because you got to start somewhere. And also
It's
people
very...
and I'm so...
Let me just say this. Your parents were sitting there watching this big experience for you. And that's what makes it probably the biggest thing that you'll ever do, because the timing of that, and for you to go through that and to finally come out of that and to just get the glory. That's amazing.
That's what it was. I felt like it was definitely my parents and God, because I had to sit back for 3.5 years and not do anything, and and not be out there. You see all these people out there, and and I myself, I am consider myself like an anointed artist for God. So I want to be myself. I don't want to be out there. There's nothing wrong with being out there, doing the clubs and doing cover songs, like being in cover bands. I don't mind that. I don't, but I just don't feel like that's me. And I'm like, well, I'm not really out there like all these other people every weekend at a club doing, or at a wedding. I've never felt that's the direction I should go. I just feel like even though I might not be doing as much performing, at least I'm out there being me, you know. That's what I loved about Prince so much. And artists like Prince, I'm drawn more to original style artists that really write their own songs,
Right.
that are original, that don't follow trends. They're just who they are. And they're like,
Who
Prince
they
is one of the
are.
best who they are. He's the
That's
best. Yeah, rather than trying to be like, oh, I should do a song because this is the trend at the moment. I've never been into that. So right after the Hollywood Florida Film Festival, the Wellington Film Festival in Palm Beach wrote me and said I was selected. So literally a week after that whole festival, I was so tired. It was the week of Thanksgiving. They said, well, you're a nominee. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I drove to Palm Beach. They
oh my god.
screened, they
Oh my
screened flying. And I told the guy, I said, I'm not going to be able to come to the award ceremony because it's the day before Thanksgiving. I mean, I had to pick up food. You know how it is the day before
yeah.
Thanksgiving. I don't even know why they would schedule it, but they did. And so I was screened and he gave me my award and certificate right after. So I won literally 3 local festivals and the end of right after my mom passed. And I got trophy, and the trophy from the Wellington one is like heavy. It almost looks like an Oscar the way that they have it, but it was like a really nice, they're all nice, but so that happened. And then of course January hits. And I had come off from this big high of all this stuff happening, and then Christmas, and then I got sick. And then I went through a very low period in January. I was really depressed. I was sick. I didn't have any appetite, lost some weight, and I didn't want to lose any weight. It was just and I think the grieving period hit me then because my mom died March 10th, but I had so much going on. And then even before that, I wrote a song called We All Want to Be Loved. And my
Yes.
producer Ben and I had been filming scenes over the years. And I wanted to do one final scene with my friends. So I filmed in this beautiful location called Jazzy's Hideaway in Fort Lauderdale, which I found them through the Flow Film Festival. That's where they had their awards ceremony. So I had this big party. We did a memorial to my parents. We did a balloon release. So it was like a memorial to my parents and a video filming party and everything all at once. So I had that. And then I was in a fashion show. Believe it or not, the lady from Naomi from the where I had the event, she held
Huh.
an African American. It was like from not Nigeria or one of those countries. They had a fashion line coming down. I was the only Caucasian girl in the event. I was the only older person in it. And she said, we want you to model. I'm like, all these young models and me. And I was like, but it was so amazing. I wore all African clothes. That's actually on my
Right.
YouTube channel. So I was like, this is so weird because I'm not even a model. But Naomi saw something in me. And she's like, I think you should be in the fashion show. And I'm like, really? And it was the most amazing experience. I was with all young African American kids, like in their 20s, professional models. And here I
Wow.
am. But it was everybody, people loved me. I was just myself. And the people that put on the festival, I can't remember what country they were from. It was not Kenya, or name some African countries that are really, it wasn't Nigeria that has the really good fashion. And I have it on my YouTube channel. But they were actually the reason they found out about Jazzy's is because their film, they came all the way from Africa for the Flow Film Festival because they did a film in this area of Africa called Sodom and Gomorrah. It's like the
Wow.
worst impoverished area. They were very wealthy. I can't remember what country though, not Kenya, but one of these countries. And they flew all the way from Africa for the Flow Film Festival. So they knew about Jazzy's too. So they wanted to come to America to put on their fashion show from the fashion from Africa. And they had a lot of money too. They were very wealthy Africans. So
Wow.
they came here to Jazzy's I had my party at Jazzy's, they had, and it was beautiful. And they had, I mean, they brought people in, you know, and I wore all the African, it was amazing. I
Oh,
had not to go on. So I even bought one of the things. It was amazing. But so I had
wow.
that, and then I had, it was just, the reason I'm telling this is it was nonstop busy from the time my mom died all the way. And then when January hit, when I didn't really have anything planned, because when you're used to this road, you know, things happening, I got really sick. I had no appetite. I took an antibiotic, and even after taking it, it wasn't like I was nauseous, but it was like this, I don't know how to explain it. I'm like, something's wrong, but I guess antibiotics kill everything in your gut. And
Literally,
so it took me a month to get back, and I went through a very depressed period. I was crying a lot, and I think the grief hit me then
it hits you then.
because I got to, you know, slow down a little bit. But
Yeah.
in that time period is when I had, what is them? There's so many different things here. The where is it? I have it written down because I said if I forget anything here. I had the International World Entertainment Awards in January. World Entertainment Awards is in Los Angeles, and I had submitted back in November. My jazz musician friend Yulia submitted. She only does jazz piano, so no singing. And I saw that she was nominated for her jazz album that was just released. And she's winning a ton of awards for her album, and she's charting on regular jazz radio. So anyhow, I said, you know what? Let me go check this out. And it wasn't part of Film Freeway. And I said, let me submit my music. And then it was a long submission process. You had to put a bio about yourself. You had to put all your website. It wasn't just one
A
particular
lot of,
video,
lot of required.
everything. Never heard from them all the way through November, December, January. So I said, well, maybe I just didn't get in. I was at the lowest point, still sick. You had contacted me. That you were a blessing too, actually.
Here
You
comes
contacted me.
angels. Here comes the angel.
Yeah, you came, and then all of a sudden they wrote me November 20th to say I was a nominee in the new best newcomer category. But their event was in Los Angeles, near where the stars are on the street, February 2nd. And I was still not in a place. And TC's like, I don't think it's a good, and I didn't feel well at that time yet. So I didn't end up going, but Yulia was able to film. I had to do a video like we're doing and send it to them. And they featured just a little part of my video of me talking about being thankful that I was nominated. They actually screened it during the awards ceremony. They screened all the nominees' videos. And so Yulia was able to film that. And even the actual award ceremony people told me they were going to. So that at least I had that. And I didn't win the final award in my category, but just to be nominated, it was like God was using that to lift me up. And then I had submitted for the International Christian and Film Festival last year. And I just found out Friday about that. So I find out tonight if I'm an actual nominee. There was 19 of us
There's
videos.
nice. We're excited.
So they put me number 7 on the list. That's my favorite number because
Oh, that's
they
her.
yeah. Friday night they did a big video announcement and they said best music video, and then they named them all and they picked Flying, and it went on their website. So, and Ben and I are in the middle of, my mom and I started recording the song Smile. You know the song Smile? Michael Jackson, it's his favorite song. Yeah. We started recording in 2021 when I was taking care of her to lift her up when my dad was sick, and we never finished, but we had all her vocals. Plus, when my mom's brother died in October, right before my dad died, we couldn't go to the funeral. So we made a video for the funeral and we sang Smile together a cappella. So Ben was able to take the vocals we recorded of her, plus those, pull them from the audio. And it's finally done. I got the licensing rights. I did it the right way. And I'm going to be releasing a video of Mom and I singing Smile together before
Nice.
Mother's Day. And she's got the cutest voice. She almost sounds like, you know, like as a kid when you watch Christmas movies, like
Right.
Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus, how the voice and Mrs. Claus would sing. That's how my
Oh,
mom's voice
yeah.
was. That old, almost like feeling. And so Ben did the music from.
Feel like a child.
Yeah, you'll hear it in her
Feel
voice.
cozy.
And she was sad and mad at me because she said, we're never going to finish the song. But she ended up having a stroke several months after dad died, which
Mm,
left her with aphasia, which, Wendy Williams, I don't know if you've seen the Wendy Williams documentary. Have you seen
ah,
it? You
terrible.
have?
Yeah.
I love it. It made me cry. We just watched it last week. I watched the whole thing in one day.
Really
Um,
sad.
she has aphasia. My mom had aphasia really bad, where she would say, she's thinking she's saying something else, but she's saying Amy, 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 Amy. So we couldn't do any recording, obviously.
Yeah.
But I do have videos of her and I together, even singing then when she's in her last days. But
Yeah.
we got good recording from the years when she didn't have aphasia, and it turned out so beautiful. And we're doing a video of me and mom together that we filmed, that I used to film with her in the room just to put up on YouTube for fun. And we're using that. So that's going to be released before Mother's Day. And then I have
That is going to be wonderful.
my producer, Ben, thinks that a lot of people are going to be touched. Not only that, in the end of the song, my mom had the cutest laugh. And when we recorded her with Ben, she started laughing right after she sang. And we decided to add that to the end of the song.
Oh
Her and
my
I
God.
laughing. And then at that, I was like, Ben, I said, Mom needs to be saying something after we laugh. So I went back to all of our old videos that we did on YouTube over the years. And there was a thing where Mom says, we love to sing and we love to laugh. And I said, we like to smile too, right, Mom? And she said, right. We added that to the very end. So it
Oh,
ends with us laughing. And so that's coming. And I know Mom will be smiling from heaven because she was always mad at me. We're never going to get it done. Even up until she died, she was so angry.
uh,
If I talk about singing, she would get mad, because she couldn't talk, but she'd try to hit me, because she had a little bit of dementia too. So she was so weak, she would go, like,
yeah.
and make faces at me. But I wasn't upset with her. It's just she was not well at the end. And
You know what? I think going to really give some closure. I mean, you're never going to part from how you feel about your mother or your father, but I definitely think this is going the right way as far as giving you some closure and doing this the right way. And I have a funny feeling there's going to be lots more awards coming your way.
yeah, no, I don't know how it works with cover songs. Like I have to research because the songs that I've so far original or my originals, but I have to find out if I can even submit a cover song because the video is just going to be basic. It's just going to be photos of me and mom, videos of me and mom, the takes where we're just laughing. Have you seen Michael Jackson's Smile video?
Oh, love it. Love it.
It's just him. It's just video of him smiling over the year. That's what we're doing. And I went through hundreds of footage. Ben's coming on Friday. We're in the process of doing the video.
If there's
And
an
then
award to win, you're going to get.
now that and my mom would be so happy. And she really has a cute voice. And I found out as I was taking care of her that she really wished she could have been a singer. She had a lot of anger and she really did have a cute voice. There was just something about her. Her voice is very nostalgic and I think people are going to love it. I recorded my vocals right after she died. And I went back and listened to them and I'm like, Ben, they sound terrible to me. And then we re-recorded them like 2 or 3 weeks ago and they're right on. Cause I think at that time I wasn't really at a good place when I recorded it. And so now I think it's ready. And that'll be coming out before Mother's Day.
You are more than ready. And you know what? I think that by you caring so much about your family and about others, you're a humanitarian. And we've talked about all the success that you've had musically. Briefly, let's talk about your humanitarian work that you've done.
Oh wow. Well, back when there was no MySpace, no internet really, I wrote a song called God's Special Angel for special needs. I had a real heart for special needs, handicap, orphan children. And I think that was on my first album. And people, when I did first go on MySpace, they loved that song along with Make Me a Butterfly. A lot of people that lost children to cancer, I'm now to this
Right.
day still friends with them on Facebook. Anita
That's
Sue, my song God's Special Angel got them through the loss of their son. Um, there's Autumn Adler. Antler, I think is her last name. I met her through my song. So like, and Hole in the Heart Ministries was Autumn's ministry for mothers that have lost children to either to cancer or illness. They use my song. So, and I used to sing it in church, in my church, and different things. And then God started speaking to me to go into children's hospitals. Now, this is before anything on the internet. So I actually would call, I can't believe I did this, but call the children's hospitals. And I went to like Shriners Children in Texas. I went to through MySpace, through a family that I met in MySpace. They had a burn center for children that were burning fires, and their son, somehow they were affiliated because somebody they knew was burnt or something, a child that was in a fire. So I got to do that. I flew to Texas.
Wow.
And then Shriners in Northern Florida. I went to the big Shriners in there. I sang there. And then Misericordia Children's Hospital in Chicago. Misericordia is a hospital and facility for extreme special needs children that are hooked up to machines. They're never going to probably live. Some of them die as children, or they're not going to ever grow up, and live. Most of them die. It was such an experience when you went in, because of course I could only take they were really strict about balloons. I brought teddy bears and I couldn't bring the latex balloons. These children don't speak. They're on machines, breathing machines. A lot of times the parents just can't take care of them. They're so severe. They were born with severe disabilities. So when I went there, they had to bring the children out in the hallways, in their beds and their wheelchairs. They moan and groan, but it's not like you're singing to somebody I had to stop singing throughout the time because I was crying so much. One of my friends, Nina, went at the time. She couldn't even handle it. She had to leave. It was too much for her. But my sister went and she stayed. What had happened though is when I sang God's Special Angel, one of the nurses said, "Oh my gosh, one of the children that was moving their arms and trying to talk." So it was definitely anointed, the anointing of God. And I was getting response from them as far as they were moving. And so I left a CD. At that time I still had CDs of just the song I brought in each room. And I found out through the nurses, they would play it and the kids would respond. It was like they knew. So it was the Holy Spirit.
Right.
And then that same time in Chicago, Misericordia had in their downtown, another area of Chicago, was this Down syndrome adults. They're all grown up. They live in this facility. They're able to thrive and live, but they live in a community. They live in this community called Misericordia, but they're adults, and they'll live a long time and they're happy and they're married, some of them, So they asked me to sing for their big event. And I was late. My friend Nina, we couldn't find the place. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I got there late. They put me up on the stage. I sang. Right after, it was God. It had to be God. All the Down syndrome adults started rushing to the stage.
Wow.
I've never experienced this in my life.
Oh.
And I could not stop crying. It was like the most powerful thing. It was like the love of God was so strong through them, not through me. It was through them. They're so pure at heart. And they're like, "You're an angel. You're an angel." And they're trying to touch me. And they're like, "Oh my," and I'm sobbing. And it was uncontrollable because I felt like the power of the love they taught me more than I taught them. Right. So that was an experience for me. And most of the time when I've sang for these events, that's always been that way, where it's not I teach them, they teach me. I also went to sing for the School of the Blind here in Fort Lauderdale. And it was always God's Special Angel. That song is always, for children. But I also, for orphans, I helped an orphanage in Uganda. At that time, this is MySpace days, and we sent toys, big box. It took a month or so to get there. And I was going to go to Uganda at that time, but I would never survive. TC's and everybody's like, "Amy," because I'm the type of person that has to look at the date on food. I would come back 90 pounds. I wouldn't eat. And it was like in an actual orphanage, where, you're not getting, even the guy who heads it said, "Well, you would only have I would be, so I can't see myself on the mission field."
I feel you. I'm the same way.
Yeah, I don't know if I can handle that, but so I helped the orphans in Uganda. We did God's Special Angel t-shirts I sent. I have pictures way back on my Facebook from back in the day of that. And then I sang for Shots Communities, which is a facility that helps all special needs. I went through a period in that time of my life where I broke out with terrible cystic acne. The reason I'm
Yeah.
telling you this is because that was another area where God used me to have compassion on people with skin disorders, like severe skin disorders. And so I was breaking out really bad. I was asked to sing for this event. I get there depressed the whole time I'm driving because I had these big cysts on my face. And the guy that was helping me set up the sound had no eye, literally no eye. His eye was like, and he didn't
Uh,
have any, it
uh,
wasn't like he had glasses on. Okay, so I was like, okay, God. So I go in the bathroom, I'm crying, like God's trying to show me something. So I go after he helps me tear down the equipment. He said, I'll walk you to your car. And I started telling him, he said, well, I had cancer in my eyes. And they told me if I didn't take out this one eye that I would never, I would die. So it was like he
oh,
had literally no eye. It was just covered over with skin. So that was one experience. Then I found this organization is called Epidermis bullosa. And I don't know if you've ever heard of it. They call it the butterfly disease
butterfly disease.
because
Yeah.
their skin, like our skin, attaches normally, but they're born with a rare genetic disease where their skin just falls off and most of the time they don't live. So I reached out to them. I actually became friends with several people that had epidermis bullosa. And that was another organization that touched me through my skin problem. You're much more, when you go through things, you're much more aware of other people's pain around you and what other people go through. So
That's
that was
right.
and then when I was singing in my church, I was a worship leader. This is years and years ago. We had a mental institute behind the church. And oh my God, I get crying when I think about this. And some of the people that lived in the mental institute would come. And there was a girl, Maribel, that would come. She had greasy hair, dandruff, was very strange. She wore a dress and it was dirty, her shoes were messed up, but she would worship the Lord. One Wednesday, I had to sing Wednesday and Sundays. I'm driving. I was in a very bad mood. I'm like, God, I hate this. I don't want to sing. I was like, this is all fake. Because when you go to church and you are in a bad mood or you're going through something, you put on a front once you get to church. And here I am, a worship leader. So I'm really having a conversation with God about this, and I don't want to do this. So I get to the church and I said, God, I'm not talking to anybody like the churchy people, the traditional churchy. So all of a sudden I had to get there early. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, Maribel walks in with this guy that's in the facility. He kind of reminds you of like Forrest Gump. He was slow and he had his Bible. He talked slow. Like I describe him like Forrest Gump. They come right to me. And for some reason, like when I tell this, my heart, they wanted to talk. I felt like I was supposed to talk to them. So they say, you had the most beautiful voice. They start talking to me. I wish I could. Maribel's like, I wish I could sing. They're like telling me about your voice when you sing up there. So
Mm-hmm.
some reason, I can't even talk about this. I said, what happened in your life? So I started asking them. And they said, Maribel said, well, I was abused and used to be made fun of in school. And and she's telling me this, like, not even upset. Like because she's really severe mentally ill. And she
Yeah.
starts sharing. And then he's like, my mama was born drug addicted and turned me upside down. And I was born normal, but I got a brain damage. So he's
Well,
telling me that, right? And they're telling me in such a way they're not even upset. And I'm like sobbing. I mean, I'm telling you, like sobbing. So I get up. I was a worship leader and had to sing all the solos. So this is before service starts. So we had a prayer time in the front where the worship team gets up and then
yeah.
people from the church can get up. Well, they're holding me up. I'm like sobbing. And these two people that I'm like crying about, it's like I was taking on all their pain at that moment. And they're trying to help me wipe my eyes. They're like wondering. So I get up. I couldn't even sing. I'm like sobbing, wailing. I'm telling like wailing and worship team, the drummer, all of them are playing. Nothing's coming out. I had the microphone, I'm wailing. The pastor just gently, like 5 minutes passed by, he comes and he pulls me off the stage. And God told me to get Maribel Easter gifts. So I ended up taking all the money my parents sent me for Easter. That's when they still lived in Maryland, used to send me gifts for holidays.
Yeah.
And I bought dresses and shoes and so I have all these stories because I haven't had so much now in my life because I went through the story of my parents. But back then, before all the internet days, I was a worship leader. I would go out. It was like a ministry type thing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, then Facebook came and Twitter came and Instagram came, and which I find sometimes very stressful, social
Right.
media. So,
I tell you, yeah, woo, these stories.
Yes.
But I tell you, you have really have done a wonderful job serving the Lord's will. And I think that because of that, even though the devil has tested you through your journey, God has blessed you. And the blessings are coming more and more and more and more. And I tell you, it's been an absolute blessing to have you on this show. But I want to talk about one thing before we go.
Okay.
Walking on the Stars was a TV show that you were part of. Do I have a hit song?
Yeah, Do I Have a Hit Song was the TV show, and my song was Walking on the Stars. That
What
was God, that was right
was
after my album. 2016, I think, was it? I think it was 2016. Yeah. I released a fun dance song, Walking on the Stars, and started working with the gentleman who was the head of Do I Have a Hit Song. He was trying to do a show kind of like American Idol then, but with people that did original songs rather than cover songs. So it was the first, and he picked people from all over the world. Like a guy flew in from, I'm wiping my eyes because I was crying. A guy flew in from Sweden. People were in from different states, and they had it up in Jacksonville. And we filmed, and I got to sing Walking on the Stars, and I was very sick during that time. Oh my God, I had a terrible bronchitis, but I managed to film it. I didn't win the final thing, but it was such an experience. And I'm still friends with many of the people like Brie LeBeau and I can't think of his name, David something in his last name. I met so many wonderful people at that event. And Walking on the Stars was part of a radio network. I think it was SD. I think I had it written down. There's so many things. I'm like, oh, the top SD
yeah,
radio network that made the number one that year. So that was another thing that happened. And
but
my
it's
breath
so
of
funny. What's so funny is that the words Walking on the Stars, I thought that was a wonderful conclusion to this interview because that's what it seems like it's been for you. You've been walking on the stars.
yes, I think, yeah. I'm just seeing what God has next.
How do they get in contact with you, Amy?
Well, I'm on all social media platforms. I have an official website, amybarbera.com. It's my name, Amy, AMYBARBERA.com. That has all my social media and even has a place where you can contact me directly. I'm on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. I mean, now it's X, but Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify channel. I have everything, Amazon, iTunes. I'm everywhere. So, but any social media platforms on my website. I'm also have a Film Freeway page that you can contact in the film area. I get contacted by a lot of film festivals because they see that I win, because Film Freeway puts all your wins up. And so I get contacted constantly on that end. So everywhere.
That's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. It's been such a pleasure.
all around me in the sky. I can touch the soft clouds in this paradise. I can feel God's warm light surround me in this dream. I don't want to leave. I can feel I've never known. I am flying, flying, flying high. I'm soaring, flying high. I am soaring. Soaring free, I'm at peace.
You're starstruck, here's a sprinkle of the stardust. Hold your champagne glass and your cigars up. See the guys with mob ties drive the cars up. Bright light.